Cheyenne is in the hizzy. Good to
What up,
see you,
Tiny?
brother. Good to see you, man.
You too,
Um,
my friend.
yeah,
It's
brother.
nice to
Haven't
see your
seen.
face. You live like thousands of miles away now.
I know, man.
I mean, I pretty much know what you're doing. I watch you on Facebook, and you share a lot, which I enjoy. You always look like you're eating something really good.
Yeah, brother. You're always welcome. Anytime you want to come visit, man, dude. My house, mi casa is su casa, brother. You know.
Oh, I appreciate that. I was talking about that to Sarah. I'm like, we need to go out there, dude. I love it out there.
Yeah,
I've
James
been
was
to.
here for Thanksgiving, bro. He had a great time, dude.
That was
We would
awesome.
love it for you to come out here.
That was so awesome. It looked like a lot of fun. Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
with him
dude.
the other night. He's an interesting bird. I love that guy.
Yeah. So when am I going to see you again, man? Are you going to EDC? You going to any other future events?
I'm I'm gonna go to EDC, and then I'm doing this one called Skyline in a couple weeks, which should be pretty interesting. It looks
Cool.
fun, house and techno, but I'll definitely be at EDC and Knock. Knock's my favorite every year, man. That's just like because
Yeah.
it's so chill and it's a vibe for sure, dude. It
Yeah.
feels more like a family reunion than a festival. Whereas
Wow.
EDC is a bit on the chaotic side, but it's fun, but it's just different. It's so massive now. It's just like a little overwhelming sometimes. And
Yeah, it is, man.
but it's really cool. I mean, and this year should be interesting. It is the 30th anniversary of Insomniac this year. So I would think,
Right.
I'm surprised they haven't even mentioned it. But I mean, I guess if you get technical, it's not till September. So because I think it was or October, I think was when the first Insomniac After Hours was.
Right.
October like 20 something of 93.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, EDC is awesome. I enjoy it. I love doing Camp OG. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And it's real gratifying just to see how much that's why Knock's so fun too, because to see how everybody enjoys it and like how you get a lot of the younger crowd, the youngsters vibing real hard on the crew, and it's a lot of fun, man. It just feels very special. And I feel very grateful and blessed that we have the opportunity to do stuff like that, because people just you don't get those opportunities. It's
That's
like
so true.
Pasquale could very easily be like, but he just he stays true to like the history and the roots, which I'm so grateful for, because I mean, dude, it's my life. It's my story.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's hey, where I am today is, and who I am today is a direct result of the time I spent there when I was like 15, 16, 17,
Right.
18. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Right.
it directly created the individual that stands before you today, shy of the fact that I'm, 9+ years sober now.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about that is my core of who I am was even stronger than I thought to be once I got sober and realized I was like, because I thought for sure, everything's over. I'm like
Yeah.
the party's over, no more
Like everything
partying,
is
no more.
over. Right. Right.
Like I'm gonna sit in a room full of old guys for the rest of my life and listen to them complain about their wives and drinking
Right.
and it couldn't be further from the case. It's just like
This episode is brought to you by Farm Fresh to You. Start improving your immune system by eating more fruits and vegetables. Try out an organic farm box today. Each box is harvested within 5 days and is fully customizable with the season's best. In addition, there are over 600 grocery items you could add to your box, from milk, eggs, and organic bread. Go to farmfresh2.com and click on the sign up button to join. Receive 10% off ongoing for every box by using promo code GREENAPPLE. To learn more, go to the link in the description of this episode's notes. Now, back to our episode.
my life is so big and so beautiful that sometimes I have to slow down and look around to really believe that I'm where I'm at.
Yeah,
It's
it's interesting you say that because it's like when you kind of really think back to those days, it's you and so many of of the people that we know today. I mean, we were part of those original kids that were 14, 15, 16 years old that were going to this new movement that just kind of was created in LA, and it kind of exploded to just worldwide to the
Yeah,
to
it's wild,
it's
dude.
worldwide. It really is.
Yeah.
It's probably the biggest musical scene that out there, at least one of them, aside from the
Oh
hip
yeah.
hops and the rock and so forth, but to be a part of that and to be a part of history, to be there in the very beginning, and
Yeah.
it's humbling, and to have someone like Pasquale to take it, to
Mm-hmm.
where it is today, because it's mind blowing, because you have some of those forefathers that a lot of those people are no longer doing events today,
Mm-hmm.
and mad respect to all of them, and at the same time, what Pasquale did,
Oh
and
yeah.
that blood and sweat and tears and that hard work, he took it to where it is today.
Oh yeah.
And
He's a direct reason. He's the
exactly,
reason. In the United
exactly,
States, there's nobody else that's the reason. You know what I mean? Like, because I mean, what
exactly.
I remember is like it was like Los Angeles, New York, and like England back
Yeah,
when I was starting, and that was it. You know what I
that's
mean?
it.
Like
That's
there was
right.
little offshoots and stuff, but like where the scene was Los Angeles, New York, and England. And like I mean, my first party was 1992. What? I was 14 years
What? It
old.
was what? Oh,
Yeah,
dope. Okay.
you know what I
Shout out
mean? And so
to
to
Doug
Dougal,
and
yeah,
Shad.
yeah, dude, I love Doug and Chad. Like many a night spent Doug's apartment over there off Sherman Way in
Nice.
in Van Nuys. And like that was more along the family days. That when I became closer to them, and but I mean, and I remember when I walked into that party, man, I was brought there by Casey Colstead,
Mhm.
Casey Splat, and
Yeah.
me and him have been friends since we're, I think, 8 or 9 years old. We met in church youth group of all places, and
Yeah.
and
Shout out to
like
Casey. Shout out to Casey.
Splatterat. I've known that guy
Yeah.
so long, and he took me to my first underground party, and
Oh, wow.
it changed my whole life. He'd only gone to one or two before me, but I think my friend Mark Osgood, I don't know if you ever met him, named Marker, everybody called him. He
Hmm.
took Casey to his first one, and Mark was one of like the state, like the regulars in my area, because I grew up in the northwest side of the valley, and it was
Hmm.
like me, Brandy Romero, Casey Colstead, Trevor Morrow, Mark Osgood, the Rainbow Twins, Jenny and Lisa, and
Hmm.
Rosanna, and Trisha, and Camille, and it was like Steve Lindsay and Noah, and like all
Yeah.
those guys were from like Simi Valley and Thousand Oaks and Chatsworth and Woodland Hills and West Hills, and like um it was just like for me, man, like I grew up. First of all, I grew up with the name Cheyenne. I was a
Yeah.
fat kid and I had long blonde curly hair and I was tortured, and like I spent the majority of my childhood not feeling like I belonged anywhere. So much so that like when I was like 9 years old or 8 years old, um, I woke up in the middle of the night and I cut all my hair off. My mom was a hairdresser, and so
Cool.
she has a 1800s barber chair like in the den, and she
Hmm.
would cut hair there. She cut a lot of musicians' hair and people like that, and a lot of jazz musicians and different people. And um, I woke up in the middle of the night, woke my sister up too, because at the time we shared a room. And shout out to Cherokee, and I cut all my hair off. It was like to the middle of my back
Oh,
with my mom's
whoa.
with my mom's hair cutting scissors, and
Oh,
cut all my
shit.
sister's hair off too. Cut all
Oh,
and my mom,
shit.
and my mom still has the hair, that's my mom for you,
No way.
but
She still has the hair?
oh yeah, yes,
Oh,
yeah, she
no.
still has the hair, all of our first teeth, all that stuff, that. But
Wow.
mom's a she's sentimental no matter what, and it's just how she rolls. She's always been that way, and my grandma was the same way. But like the point of that story is that like I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And leading up to the time when I picked up drugs the first time, long before I found raves, you know, or anything like that. I think I smoked weed the first time when I was 9, and then you know, and today I have no qualms telling my story because my story helps people, you know, and like
Yeah.
at 11 years old, I tried methamphetamine for the first time, and um,
Yeah.
and until I found that, that was the first time in my life that I didn't care. Now, what not caring was not what I was looking for, but it was okay at the time because I didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And the first time I walked into that party, man, was the first time in my life where I was like, wow, I found my home. I
Right.
found where I belong. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
is where all the this is where all the outlayers and that and the outcasts and the
Right.
people that they think they're weird or strange or look funny or whatever, it doesn't matter
Right.
because it's a family. Like from the moment I walked in, people are like loving and kind and like and like whatever state of mind they were in is inconsequential. The fact is, I had never experienced that. Not to say that my mom wasn't the most loving mother, and that my grandparents weren't the most loving grandparents. It's just I wasn't able to feel it,
Right.
and
Right.
like that was like the first time where I was like, wow, like I felt like I could breathe. You know what
It's
I mean?
crazy. Yeah, because it's crazy because that time when we were I experienced the same thing and going to that event just like you, and you know, you feel this overwhelming amount of love that surrounds you, and you don't even know anyone in that room. And what got me about some of these early events is that you would have in a big room, you would have Mexicans, Asians,
Mhm.
black, white, gay, straight,
Mhm.
everything, every culture imaginable, just fucking in a room, just showing so much love and respect,
Yep.
kindness. And it was something that, like yourself, I've never seen before in one room because I was exposed at the time to hip hop. And I remember at the time I would go to a couple of hip hops and there would be some fights or this or that. But and then I
Mhm.
go into this warehouse and it's nothing but love and respect and kindness. And I said to myself, wow, this is unique. This is
Mhm.
so dope. I love this feeling of being around this type of energy and just people and movement at the time. It was dope.
It was unexplainable, man. You know, I never even remember seeing a fight in a rave until they started to incorporate some hip hop into some parties. Like I
Right.
remember like Audiotistic the first time they brought like some hip hop group. I think it was like Five Dog and somebody else, and that was the first time I remember seeing like a full on like crazy fight at a party.
Right.
And
It was
before
rare
that, it was
though.
like yeah, very rare. And like before that, it was just like the only people that you would see causing any chaos were the people that were, you know, occasionally spent breaking into cars and stuff outside of raves or whatnot. But like,
Right.
you know, but it was, I don't know, I still can never really do justice to the actual feeling of how it felt. And like today, man, like my life, you know, like I have a, I have this, I don't know, I choose to call it God, but it's this higher power of my life. But really, if I like look at the deep facts of what it is, it's just love. And
Yeah.
like I find spirituality and like freedom through love that is expressed to me through other people that I have the opportunity to express to them. And I learned that shit uh, initially from going to those parties and from like finding myself a place where I felt like I had a family. And then as time progressed, and you got even more. I was just like, you know, I might not have made the greatest decisions. I was like, I'm dropping out of high school and I'm going to raves full time. And that's
Yeah.
what I did. You know,
No.
maybe in hindsight, that wasn't the best decision, but it was my decision at the time. And like, I today wouldn't have it any other way
Yeah.
because, like I said earlier, it shaped me into the person that I am today. You know, it gave me the capacity for love, really, you
Right.
know, which I
Right.
don't know if I had that before that. You
Yeah.
know, like it showed me that it was like a first sense of true color blindness too that I had ever seen because like I grew up in a neighborhood, albeit a very beautiful neighborhood up here in Chatsworth Lake. We're in the San Susanna Mountains, nice lots of rocks everywhere, beautiful oak trees, and there's a lot of you know, this neighborhood was pretty much founded by older families from like Arkansas and Missouri and
Mm,
Mississippi, and
right,
like, and so the legacies of their family, there was a lot of like deep seated like generational racism, you
right,
know,
right, right,
and thank God my parents and my grandparents were not that way, but it's still like all the guys I grew up with, you know, all the people, all the youngsters and the few-year older kids that I hung out with in my neighborhood, you know, they didn't know any better. That was just how they
right,
were raised by their
right,
parents were that way, and their grandparents were even worse, you
right,
know,
right.
and like I was at this age where like if I in hindsight look back, I was on the precipice of kind of falling into that crowd, you
Yeah,
know, because I was at the age of like 13, 14, I really started to become more it's more important to fit in than almost anything, you
true.
know, and
Right. Good point.
yeah, and so
Yeah,
like
any kid at that age. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't have
Right.
anything to do with where you come from, who you are at that
True.
age. Like it's a feeling of feeling accepted,
Yeah.
you know, and thank God, like I met Casey, and then I found myself hanging out with him all the time, and then got into graffiti and got into hip hop and got into all that stuff. And so I was looked at as this weirdo in my neighborhood. And then I found the rave scene, and that just solidified the fact that I needed not to be exposed to that anymore, and I needed to find my own path outside of the people that I grew up with and had as lifelong friends. And you know, and now as I sit here, I would say 6 out of 10 of the dudes I grew up with are either dead or in prison,
Yeah. Right.
and a few of them got out of the neighborhood and away from that lifestyle and are, you know, contributing members of society today, and like good people with like multifaceted backgrounds and multifaceted lives, and like you know, and thank God that like things just happened the way that they happened, and that I found my way into the underground scene in Los Angeles, because it truly saved me from a life of prison and in and out of prison. You know, all those things that all my friends that I grew up with did. You know, like it just, you know, you methamphetamine and alcohol and committing crimes and hanging out with knuckleheaded jackass like Peckerwood type fools, you're going to go to prison, you're going to get killed, something's going to happen.
Yeah. It's like the
And
people
like
that my dad would always tell me, it's you have to look at the people that you know who you tell me who, you know, tell me who you are is you know, tell me who you surround yourself with is something my dad would
yeah.
always say, or my uncles would say. And as a
Hmm.
kid, I thought that was full of just bullshit. I'm like, yeah, whatever, uncle, whatever, dad. But they're now hindsight looking back, there's a lot of truth to that. You know, I had
Hmm.
friends, you know, I was in junior high and I had friends that were all gangbangers, you know, and,
Hmm.
you know, I know if I would have continued to hang out with them, either that would affect me in some way, I would become them, and it would lead to a very bad situation
Hmm.
overall. And I found myself loving music, loving to
Hmm.
DJ. I met Raul in high school. You know, my brother, he got into the hip hop scene and just the underground scene, and I met so many
Hmm.
people, and it just, I agree with you, it kind of changed the way um I looked at life, and it also allowed me to look at who's around me. Do I have
Hmm.
negative people around me? Are these people going to take me to a better place or a negative place? And you make a lot of sense by saying that, dude. That's so fucking true, bro. You know?
Yeah, it just, I mean, you know, it's like I've had a lot in getting sober, man, and you know, it's interesting, like leading up to the time, you know, because you know, after the rave scene, well, not after, but like in like 99 to 99-ish, 2000, I was just like to the point where I was like so off the rails at that point with meth,
Yeah.
and like I don't know how, but I was always that like hyper. high functioning drug addict that was able to like always have a job and a place to live and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like doing like 2 or 3 grams of meth a day, and like
Wow.
somehow I don't know. I just have it's I don't even care. I'll tell this because my dad's gonna probably hear this. But I remember at because my dad, my dad got sober in 1988, and he's still sober. He's 30. It was the eve of his 40th birthday. He's 35 years sober now,
Wow.
and
Wow. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and but he was gonna, my dad was a it's interesting. You would probably like him as a guest. He's pretty insane. He was one of the first gringos to smuggle cocaine into the United States from Colombia, and he
What?
was the big yeah, and he was
Like,
the biggest pot smuggler in U.S. history. Um,
no way.
you can look him up on Google. Yeah, Brian O'Dea is his name, and and
Wait, that name sounds familiar. I think a mutual friend of ours mentioned his name. He goes, you know who Cheyenne's dad is? I was like, no, I don't know. And then I said,
yeah,
Google his name, and I Googled. And I was like, holy shit, he's
yeah.
very
I'll get you a
famous.
copy. I'll get you a copy of his book. He's actually just came back from the Ukraine not too long ago and is making a documentary on
That's
the
cool.
people of the Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
Says it's his legacy, and he's working on getting ready to interview the president of the Ukraine because he became friends with the lead Secret Service guy for them when he went over there, and so but he when I was in 1990, he sitting in his house in Santa Barbara, and he gets this on the door, and he's like, I just saw his face drop, and
Oh,
he knew what that knock was, and because my dad had retired from that business and never actually got popped, the DA
yeah,
chased him for many a year, and I mean to the point where like he had DEA agents working for him, so they would try and bust him, board a commercial fishing vessel they were bringing in on, and he would have donuts and coffee waiting for him on the table. You know what I mean? And like
right.
just to rub it in, and like we knew you're coming. And and the DEA shows up at his house in Santa Barbara in 1990, and he opens the door and like they're like, "You Brian O'Dea?" And he's like, "I wish it wasn't, but I am." And ultimately, he ended up getting charged with a RICO, which is a
Okay.
Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organization Act that was like created for the mob, and
Yeah.
essentially allows them to try you and convict you on the word of a informant, no
Ah,
evidence,
okay.
and so he ended up going to federal prison. And when he's getting ready to turn himself in, it was like the last day I was going to see him before he turned himself in, and he says to me, he's like, "When I get out of prison, we're going to eat some LSD together." He's like, "Because if you're anything like me, you're going to have an abnormal ability to consume hallucinogenics and drugs in general." And I was like, I
Yeah.
thought that was a really strange thing to say to you know, a 12-year-old, but whatever.
Right.
And
Right.
and goddamn if he wasn't right, and so like I tested the boundaries of that statement, let's just say, and
I tested the boundaries.
and blew them completely up and went further than I ever would have believed possible, and not died and didn't die, and so
Yeah.
I firmly believe today that the universe had a plan, and that I'm where I'm at because I'm supposed to be, and I don't believe in coincidence today. That I mean, I've overdosed over 100 times,
Oh
and
my God.
probably,
What? I didn't know.
probably,
Jeez.
and
Over a
probably
hundred
seven.
times?
Yes, over the course of 7 years of doing heroin consistently,
Right.
and probably 75% of those I was by myself because I didn't like to use with other people when I was
Right.
wrapped up in heroin, because then I got to share it with you, or I was just I was just so like alone,
Right.
and so I can't believe anything then that there was a plan set for me by the universe to be where I'm at today and be of service to people, because I mean, by all rights I should definitely be dead more than a few times, and
Yeah.
so you know uh I was that I was that way with methamphetamine the whole time, and ultimately I walked away from the scene in like 2000 because I was just too much. I was like so wrapped up in that like lifestyle. And then I met a girl who wasn't about that lifestyle of the raves at
Right.
all. And I was like, I just walked away, and I remember feeling this feeling of loss for so long, but I just was able to shut it off like I did everything else in my life. And I would once in a while come back in or go, to a party or something, but it was never the same. And then,
Yeah.
um, I went through this wildly um, unstable and horrible relationship for like 12 years.
Oh.
And being a good addict that I am, I ended up marrying her and have a kid with her, even though we hated each other. And like,
Oh. Right.
and
Oh, damn.
and yeah, and ultimately I ended up in Washington State when we finally separated from each other.
Yeah.
And I found myself, I met another girl up there who was this dancer girl, like not like a stripper, but like she was like a break dancer.
Okay.
And
Okay.
she was a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but it turns out she was also a break dancer from the rave scene from like growing up and
Dope.
stuff. And ended up, she was also a really savage opiate addict. And
Hmm.
but she got me involved in the rave scene in Washington, and like it felt like the rave scene in Los Angeles in the 90s up there in like the 2006, 7, 8, 9,
Oh
10.
shit.
Yeah, it was like parties under bridges, parties in like underground buildings, and like just like, $5 after hours that go for
Oh,
like,
what? Oh, damn.
like, I mean, they have a place there called the Contour, or they did, at least. I haven't been in a long time, but they would open up on Friday, and the Contour would not close until 8 a.m. on Monday. And they would just be like different crews that would come in and like take over. So like one guy would have the place for like 8 hours, and then the next crew would take it over for the day. And then that night, another crew would come and go all the way through the night. And like it's also where the place where they do the longest running weekly breakbeat party in the country. It's been going on there for called Broken Grooves by this crew called Fractured, who
Right.
now does parties down here with like Oski and Fester and all these guys. And so that was like the first time I was like, oh man, I like forgot about like what made me happy,
Right.
and
Right.
and so I started going out there a lot, and like turns out like I meet a guy who happens to have worked for LSD Lasers back in Los Angeles and now owns a company called Slick Lasers, and he was like plugged in, and just like, so I found myself like almost immediately just plugged in like I was in Los Angeles all over again, but up there. And like thank God that happened, because it like reinvigorated this feeling inside me that I had completely forgot that I needed in my life. And like so, and that was the first time in a long time that I had been to an event that Pasquale did too, because when I was
Yeah.
living in Washington, it was 2008, and it was the first time he was doing a Beyond Wonderland up there.
Oh shit. Okay.
And I saw a flyer, and I remember it was so funny, dude. Like I had his phone number, which was originally his beeper number, and then it became his cell phone number.
Hmm.
Um, I had it in my phone for as long as I had had a phone. It had transferred from phone to phone to phone to phone.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Like, and I was shocked. I was like, wow, look, it's Insomniac. And I was like, this is crazy. It's at like the WAMU Center. I'm like, this is insane. Like this giant place down by the stadium there. And I hadn't been to an Insomniac event since like 99. So I was like, this
Right.
is nuts. Look how big it is. And I was like, I wonder. And I called Pasquale, and he answered the phone on like the second ring. And he's like, hello. And I was like, is this Pasquale? And he's like, yeah, who's this? And I told him, he was like, holy cow, I hadn't talked to the guy since, I don't know, 15 years,
Yeah.
10 years or something. And it was still the same phone number. I couldn't believe it. It's still the same phone number today,
That's
and
wild.
yeah. And like, I didn't know. I was like, oh, I want to go to your party. I was like, is there any like, can I get like a discount maybe?
Right.
And like, and he went on the spiel, and it was like the first time that someone said like, called me an OG. And I was like, this is so weird. And he's like, he's like, dude, you're an OG. He's like, you were there every Friday. You never have to pay for an event that I do. He's like, you paid your dues. And I remember feeling, because my life was miserable at that time. And I
Wow.
remember for the first time in a long time, I felt this like glimmer of like specialness about myself, or like hope. I was like, wow, this guy, somebody actually gives a shit, And like,
Right.
and that was like a really special, important moment for me, because it like reinvigorated this spark inside of me that like had burned out. And like,
Wow, man. That's so deep.
you know,
That's so dope.
and like immediately, like I could feel the shift, and I went to that event, and like it changed the game for me, man. And like not too long after that, I moved back to Los Angeles, and like, one thing led to another. When I got to LA, it was like, whoa, I'm like back in LA. I have a 3 gram a day heroin habit,
Yeah.
I'm like doing my damnedest to kill myself. And I ran into an old buddy from like that I grew up with, who, of course, and this seemed to always happen to me. Um, he was the plug for heroin. And
Right,
I was
right.
like, and then here I go, I'm back deep in it, and over the course of the next couple years was probably the hardest time in my whole life.
Wow.
I found myself, my life basically became Groundhog's Day. And
Wow.
I would wake up at 5 in the morning to go to work, because somehow I always managed to go to work. And like, um it's the only thing that I've managed to hold on to. I managed to hold on to it. That was my work ethic.
Yeah.
And that was just sheerly out of like, I need to work because I
Right.
have to get high,
Right.
and I have to survive. And I wasn't willing to. I never was willing to be homeless and panhandle, or there was times where, yeah, I definitely did some real shady shit that like I
Right.
probably shouldn't put out on the internet. But but like,
Right. Right. Right.
and uh I I got busted like 3 or 4 times by the same cops in the valley here. They arrested me
You're
like 3 or 4
kidding.
times. No, no, Officer Coffee and Ramirez at the West Valley Division, the Topanga Division. And I've since made amends to those cops. I firmly believe today that those cops were put in my life for a reason, because they never hemmed me up too bad, and they were never complete jerks. They were always real respectful. They were a lot younger than me, like at
Yeah.
least 15 years, 15 years younger. And they'd always be like, dude, when are you going to pull your head out of your ass? Like, when are you going to stop being when are you going to grow up? That one always hurt. I'm like, damn, got these youngsters are like 24 telling me when you're going to grow up. And like,
Oh, right.
and,
Right.
and um, I remember the last day I was using, I went through treatment, the court sent me, I did all this stuff, and just nothing stuck.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't desperate enough, and I remember I'm walking through Canoga Park. It's like 9:30 at night. I am dope sick as all get out. I had just copped, and like, I'm headed to a porta potty at Quimby Park. And
Oh
that
shit.
was my life, and I was
Yeah.
gonna fix in the porta potty. And something came over me, man. I firmly believe today it was a spiritual defense of some sort. And
Mhm.
I don't believe, I'm not like a go to church on Sunday type of like God guy. And if that's
Yeah.
your get down, good for you. I hope it works for you, but it doesn't for me. I'm more of like, I believe that my God, my spirit is love as it travels through the universe, and how it affects people and how it affects me. And like, and this spirit stepped between me in that moment, and something came over me and was like, all right, God, because I despise the word God. If you're real, then I need help, because I'm gonna do one of two things when I get to DeSoto. I'm gonna go in that porta potty and like die once again, or I'm gonna literally die, because I'm gonna walk into traffic, because I cannot go on like this. And
Wow.
And that moment, dude, as soon as I uttered those words out of my mouth, the LAPD pulled out in front of me on this
What?
dark street. Yes. And I was like, I froze. I've got a gram of heroin in my hand and I froze and they like drove off into the darkness. And I was like, phew, dodge that bullet, not thinking about the words that had just come out of my mouth. And then all of a sudden the street lights up and they back right up to me and get out of the car, and it's Officer Coffee and Ramirez again. And Coffee gets out. He's like, Mr. O'Dea, where's them? Before he could say anything, he almost finished the sentence. I went up to him so quick he like kind of went for his gun.
Yeah.
And I handed him that gram of heroin and I said, Coffee, take me to jail, man. I can't stay sober on the street. And he was like dumbfounded.
Yeah.
And then he was like, it's about fucking time, dude, And
Wow, that's awesome. Wow. That's good. Wow.
and I went and I end up going to jail. They're looking to give me some time. By the grace of God, I found my way out and was released to sober living.
Oh wow.
And as I'm leaving, I'm in this. This is important because it's like it led me to where I'm at today. I'm in the pod holding cell, getting waiting to get released. And I remember like it was yesterday. This guy's like, "Oh man, my lady's outside. She's got this, that, and the other thing. You should roll with us." And I was like, "Yeah, let's go. Run it." And I get out, and again, something stopped me in that moment, and said, "Hey, man, you should take your dumb ass and walk down to the corner and beg the bus driver for a ride up to Ventura and Van Nuys because there was a men's meeting, an AA meeting, at this place that I had been to when the court sent me to treatment,
Yeah.
and I'm in a paper suit, no underwear on." With the county slips and like,
Oh.
and I did that. And I went into that meeting and that was the first time in my life that I asked for help. And like,
Wow.
and that was, like somewhere like middle of December 2013. And so when I got sober, man, I was convinced that my life was over. Like as far as raves, music, going out, concerts, parties.
Yeah. Socializing, all that, all the above. Right.
Yeah. And one day I'm like in this place where I hung out all the time, this vape shop where everybody that was there was sober and they would have meetings there and stuff too. And
Yeah.
it was super pivotal in my early days of getting sober. And my buddy who worked there is like, I don't give a crap what you say. You're coming with me tonight. We're going to see Caspa.
Yeah.
And I love Caspa. I love me some like real like OG dubstep, like I don't know all this crazy shit they have nowadays, but like the early wobbly kind of just groovy stuff. And
Mhm.
we're going to Lot 613 and we're going to see Caspa. And I went in there, dude, and I remember like Caspa comes out and he plays Where's My Money? And dude, I just started crying like profusely because like
Wow.
in that moment I knew that like it wasn't gonna be the way that I thought it was,
Yeah.
and like that it was gonna be okay. And then like as long as I kept up this my spiritual fitness, that like I could go and do the things that I wanted to and love to do. And then shortly thereafter, because I started going back to parties, the next year was Nocturnal Wonderland's 20th anniversary when they did the
What?
first meeting of Camp OG, right?
It was
At,
the
at
following year?
yeah, so this was 2014, the next was
Yeah.
2015. And and uh and I remember seeing the lineup and I was like, holy cow, and I hadn't talked to James or anyone yet. And I just hit up a squad and I said, man, I would really love to go to this because I saw the upside down room and where they had like a Raul and Bester and Oski and Mojo and like everybody was playing. And like and I remember walking up there and I look up on the stage and I could see Jason Paris and I could see um Bester and a few people and I was like, holy shit. And they're like, come on, and they go up there. And everybody just that moment, that feeling that I got the first time I walked into what it was just like that all over again. Like everybody just embraced me and like was basically like, welcome home, dude. Like, where the fuck have you been? You know what I mean? And like, I hadn't seen a lot of those people in at least, fuck, man, probably 15, 16, 17 years, you know? And then I run into James, and then, you know, the Camp OG thing starts to evolve. And then that same year, 2015, I meet Pat, and Pat ultimately becomes my sponsor, and
Wow.
who is now like my best friend, you know.
Wow.
And he had started this thing called Consciousness Group, and with Pasquale through Insomniac events. And when he told me about it, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And like 2015 was at Escape was the first time that I volunteered for Consciousness Group. And like, I'm sure Pat, when he was on here, has talked about what that is, but it's
Yeah.
for
And
people that didn't see
can
that.
you explain what it is? What is it
Yeah.
exactly?
So basically, I had some friends who they're my friends now, but at the time they weren't my friends. But Pat, this guy Q, and this other guy, Kyle, were going to parties and stuff like that. And they
You
had
got
this
me,
idea that like, man,
bro. You got me crying over here, man. This is
uh,
deep.
you know, and they were going to parties, and
Yeah.
they got this idea from going to Bass Nectar shows, and the guy Kyle from going to Dead shows. That, you know, in the Dead shows they have these group called the Wharf Rats, and they
Yeah.
walk around with yellow balloons, and that's to let people know that they're sober. Okay,
Yeah.
and 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 um, and then Bass Nectar has the hummingbirds. Bass Nectar, I don't mess with him anymore, but
Yeah.
he had this group called the Hummingbirds that would follow him around, basically like they were following the Grateful Dead around, and they're sober also. And so they had this idea to do something like that at an Insomniac event, but they didn't know where to start.
Right.
And then Q remembers that Pat is Pat, you know,
Right.
and so Pat reaches out to Pasquale and was like, "We want to do this," and he's like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it." And
Right.
basically, what they had the idea to do was to set up a booth, make it very inviting, you know, tapestries, chairs, and you basically host a meeting, so sober support meetings. You know, we don't associate them with Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or anything like that, because
Yeah.
that would go against the traditions of the program. You know, we don't ally ourselves with any outside enterprises, you
Right.
know, because money, property, and prestige come into play, and it can destroy it, you
Right.
know. And because whenever you involve money or some sort of profit motive, something like that that's so beautiful will be destroyed. And
Yeah.
and uh and so Pasquale said to do it, and like the first year they did it, I believe it was 2014. They did it at Knock, and they were up on the hill there, way back in the corner. And he's
Yeah.
like, we had maybe three people come by, you know, and like every one of them that came by asked if the tapestries were for sale.
Hmm.
And but it wasn't the point, you know. One person who was sober showed up there, and that was enough to be like,
Yeah.
all right, this is
Oh
worth
yeah.
doing it, you know.
Right.
And then they did Escape again on 2014, and then they did Beyond, Knock, Escape again the following year. And so basically what happens is they put together a group of like 15 people. You're a volunteer basis. And by volunteering, you get a working pass. Insomniac feeds you catering every day. And essentially, we host 3 meetings a day. And as a volunteer, your obligations are to attend at least 2 meetings a day and work a 2-hour shift. And so what we do is we set a table up in the front of the booth, cover it with candy, which is
Yeah.
like you know, immediately attracts the raver kids in, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they see a big pile of candy, everybody's like, oh, what's going on over here? And
Exactly.
like and and people come up and say, hey, can I get a piece of candy? And we're like, sure, but you have to tell me a joke or a secret,
I
or
love it. I love it.
make a
So,
donation to the nonprofit, you know. And
yeah.
and I'll tell you what, man, sit at that table. One, the stuff that I've heard from some people, I mean, dude, like it's so strange how all of a sudden people feel this ability to share some like gut level stuff with you when you
Right.
say something like that to them. And I don't think it has anything to do with me. I think it has to do with the spirit that the group brings, because it's very apparent from an outside, I would imagine, that we look kind of different. Like we
Right.
look the same, but we look kind of different. You know what I
Right.
mean? And like,
Right.
and and then the most gratifying part of it is when you get someone who walks up and like this good example, EDC 2017. Um, this kid who I don't Benny, I believe was, yes, Benny was his name. He gets busted
Mhm.
at EDC for selling drugs in the parking lot, right?
Right.
Goes to jail. Fast forward 2018 EDC. This kid walks up to the table. He had
Oh
found
shit.
out about consciousness group on the internet,
Yeah.
and he walks up to the table and he's like, I've been planning to come to see you guys for the whole year. He's like, I have a year sober today. And he's like, and the reason
Wow.
I came to EDC is because I knew you guys were here. Ultimately, that kid ended up becoming a volunteer, but we celebrated that guy's 1 year birthday in the tent at EDC at midnight, and there was like 50 people in the meeting, and it's like,
Wow.
and dude, there's something so incredibly special about being in this meeting with all these like-minded individuals with a common problem, but they also have a common solution,
Yeah.
and like all being there to celebrate the fact that we're sober and to lean on each other,
Yeah.
and like
Beautiful.
in the middle of like you're on the front lines, son, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
you're in the
Right.
middle of it. And like in the middle of the world's biggest music festival, there's 50 of us at midnight crammed into a tent talking about how we're feeling and
Yeah.
how the spirit around us is serving us today. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
That's beautiful.
how grateful we are that the other one next to me and this one to my left and my right is there, because it's like, I don't even know, man. It's just one of the most special things I've ever had the privilege of being a part of, because it's like,
Wow.
here I was in 2014 convinced that my life was over and I was never going to be able to go to a rave again. I was never going to be able to go and dance again. And to have a position now where I've been all over the country volunteering for this nonprofit at music festivals and raves, and like carrying this message that it is possible to go to these things and not have to get fucked up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And if that's your get down and you have the ability to go out, rage super hard, and then go back to your regular life, more power to you, dude. But I
Right.
don't have an off switch. And a lot of my homies don't have an off switch. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And
Right.
so it's like, the fact that we have the reassurance that we can be who we want to be and live how we want to live, but we can also do it without having to carry around this giant 500-pound weight on our backs, is, I mean, I'm so overpaid, bro. You know what
That's
I mean? It's
beautiful,
like,
man. That's
and to
beautiful.
watch these kids that are like 19, 20, 21 get sober and realize that they can be a 19 or 20 or 21-year-old kid and go rage and not have to worry about the fact that like they might fuck up or they might get loaded or they might do this or whatever, because they have a whole squad of people that have their back. And like, it's really rad, dude. Like when I go to these things and do the consciousness group, one of my favorite things to do is like go to the tent, meet up with all these youngsters, and then they squat out. We're going to see this DJ, like 20 deep. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
And
Right.
they like roll to the very front of the stage, front left always. If I ever want to find the consciousness group kids, just go to the front left of the stage, either the base stage or the house stage. That's where they're going to be,
Yeah.
and like just watch them rage so hard and feel like so alive and they're just out there doing it 100% clean and sober. These kids are legitimately high on the base. You know what I mean?
That
And like,
is fucking
you know what I mean?
amazing right there.
And isn't that like what it's really
Wow.
supposed to be all about? You know, like isn't
Yeah,
it
that's
like
what it's supposed to be about. Yeah.
at the core, it's about the music.
It's
And
it's
like,
always been about the music. Yeah.
yeah, and I lost that somewhere along the way. You know what I mean? Like I
But you know
I
what? You're not the only one though, bro, because and when I look back at all the events, it's there's so many kids today, and it's hard to tag, oh, it's the type of events. It's the electronica movement. That's false. It's
yeah, for
any
sure.
movement, whether it's rock, whether it's hip hop, whether it's any type of music movement where you have a scene of some sort, there's always the element of drugs in it,
Yeah.
and kids get sucked in at a young age. And but you said it beautifully, man. It's about the music. Everyone can get really just high off the music, that feeling that you
Oh,
get.
dude.
It's so beautiful. That's where it started. The music, the
Yeah,
love
dude.
of music.
I mean, if I'm completely honest, when I walked into that party, it was the
So
first party. It was the bass. It was the feeling. It was just like the
yeah,
energy of the room, man. It didn't.
yeah,
I didn't even have an idea of the drug scene and the rave scene at that point
right,
because it was my first rave. You know what
right.
I mean? It was the energy that sucked me in,
Yeah,
and
right.
and like
And it fucking bugs me when people say that. Oh, it's a rave scene. There's nothing. That's a drug scene. It really bothers me because
me too.
that's further from the truth. It's it really kind of bothers me because it's not like that. People went to these types of events when we were kids because of the bass, because of the sound, because of the unity,
Yeah,
because of the love in the fucking room. That
that's
is
it,
the
man.
reason, you know.
Yep,
And
that's it, bro. You know, it's like and those kids to see them, it really reinvigorates that in me because they
that's dope.
like I can't tell you how many times, bro, I've been in front of the stage and I'm just, I go pretty fucking hard for an old guy. And almost every time, dude, somebody's like, wow, man, you're rolling so hard, huh, dude? You're out of class. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm high as fuck on the bass, son. I am stone cold sober. When I say that, they're like, what the fuck? And then I'm like, yeah, and I'm 45. They're like, what? Get the fuck out of here. Like to be like, I've been raving longer than you've been alive, Junior. And like, and here
I
I am
love it.
today. Here I am today, stone cold sober, raging harder than you because you could barely stand up. And like the beautiful thing too is like I remember everything I do today, bro. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, and I'm not dogging on people that go and party or dude, if I had the ability to just maybe pop a couple hits of L one time
Yeah.
and know for sure that I'm not going to end up in the bathroom with a bag of heroin, I might do that.
Right.
I might
Right.
eat some mushrooms every once in a while or something.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is I might be able to do that, but I'm
Right.
not willing to find out. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
And so it's like, but not everybody's wired like me. And that's great. Good for them. I wish. But the greatest gift, one of the greatest gifts I've got from it is the realization of like that rekindling of the fire inside me for the music. And
Yeah.
like and like how when like we're in friggin' Camp OG and it's 4:30 in the morning and I've been going hard in front of the speakers since like 11 o'clock at night
Yeah.
and I'm just like clear a path. You know what I mean? Like get out of my way because I need some room. Like it, there's moments where, dude, I'll just start with no control. I'll just start crying because of the level of gratitude that I have for my life today.
Yeah.
It's like nobody can really understand it until you're in it. But I try and do my best to explain like the level of like restless irritability, discontentedness that my whole existence was leading up to the point when I got sober. It didn't matter what I got, how much of what I got, how nice my truck was, or the place I lived, or how good my job was, or how hot my girl was.
Yeah.
None of it mattered. I was absolutely and unexplainably miserable, always dead inside. And like, that's definitely not the case today, man. You know, like
It,
it's funny. Like I can't even talk about that stuff without getting like choked
but
up because it's
it's crazy because you mentioned a few things that resonated with me. It's like you mentioned Pasquale, that he said a few kind words, and to him they were just genuine kind words by saying, bro, you're an OG. That right there went a long way during that time where
oh
you were
yeah,
fucking just broken. And
yep,
I mean, I can't even imagine how what you felt that day. And then, you know, that, and then being by that porta potty and having those officers that have just been in your life continuously for years, or seeing them all the time, and getting some sort of presence, a spiritual presence that really, it kind of awakens you. And then meeting Pat, bumping into Pat, and you know,
hmm
he's an amazing freaking soul, man. What he's done and his story, it just moved me. And for you to, it really made me cry to hear his story, and for you
oh
to you know, connect with him, and just the positivity and what he was able to do. He changed your life, and he's changed hundreds of people's lives at this point right now. And to be a part of this organization with EDC to help all these kids, it's fucking amazing, man. It's you know, and a
yeah,
lot of these kids don't know that this organization is out there, that you guys are out there, and you're out there to fucking bring support to help them. Because one thing that really hit me is that, and you said it, you're like, fuck, if I go sober, I don't know if I would ever be able to go to a party. I won't
hmm
know if I'll be a different person. And I'm sure there's a
hmm
lot of kids right now thinking the same thing, that if I
yeah,
go sober, I'm not going to be able to rage as hard, you know?
hmm
And that's not the case. And I love the fact that you're bringing this up and sharing that, bro, because a lot of kids probably don't believe that right now. No?
oh man, it's an unbelievable occurrence to be sitting at the table as a tent, a consciousness group, have somebody walk up and they're like, "What's this about?" You know, because they either
No.
ask you, "What's this about?" or uh, "Are the tapestries for sale?" Because we have some seriously dope tapestries that people have
Yeah.
donated over the years, and it literally looks like we're selling tapestries because the whole tent is lined with them. You know, and but we do that on purpose because we want to make it, and we want to suck you in, we want to invite you in. You know, and
Yeah.
you're not allowed to enter the tent if you've used any drugs or alcohol, but um, you know, one of the most powerful things is when you see someone and they say, "What's this about?" And then you say, "Well, we're a group of clean and sober ravers that
Yeah.
gather together to create a safe, sober space for like-minded individuals." And to see people get choked up, or do people go, "Are you serious? I have like 35 days sober, and I thought I've been terrified all night and I didn't know what to do. And I was getting
Wow.
ready to leave, you know,
Oh,
because like I
wow.
didn't feel comfortable.
Wow.
And I'm like, hold on, come here, meet her and him or whatever, and
Yeah.
go rage with them, you know, and then fast forward 6 months and that person's a volunteer at the tent. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
it's literally changes people's lives, man. You know, like and I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to volunteer as many times as I have, and also to
Yeah.
recommend people that like, you know, come into my life. Like, dude, it's a clutch thing for me to have when I'm like at like a meeting and I meet someone for the first time, and like you can tell they're struggling, and
Yeah.
and then they'll see my insomniac sweater or
Yeah.
something like that, and they're like, "Oh wow, insomniac, I love," blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I like them too." And
Yeah.
you know, I've been
Right.
to a few of them, and I'm like, "I got something you need to be a part of." And
Yeah.
like, it's such a profound tool to be able to offer people because it gives them this amazing sense of hope. They're like, "Really? You do
Yeah.
what?" I'm like, "Yeah, we don't only do insomniac, we do Lightning in a Bottle, Lollapalooza, Outside Lands, Camp Bisco, and like it's like almost 40 festivals a year,
Yeah. Right.
and like some of them, like Lightning in a Bottle has a full sober camp, and they have a big sign, Lightning Without a Bottle, because that's the name of the sober crew at the Lightning in a Bottle parties,
Yeah.
and it's just like, I don't know, man. It's like, it's funny. I've had some experiences with some people in the OG crew that were like, "You're not fucking sober. I don't believe it," and
Right.
that's okay. Like I don't really
Right.
give a shit what anybody believes today. That's the beautiful thing. Is like in my life, I treat everybody with love and respect, and how you feel about me is inconsequential.
Right.
Like
Right.
I just
Yeah.
I just do the next right indicated thing, and my life unfolds exactly how it's supposed to. And if that for some reason bothers you, then good for you. That sucks to be you, but and like because I've had those experiences, and that to me, I'm like, I feel for that person, because obviously they're struggling with something themselves too, and like
Right. It
they
usually
don't
is that
they
way.
don't see it as a possibility,
Yeah. Right.
and I get it, because I've been there, and like I
Yeah.
never thought it was a possibility to be sober and be the raver kid that I love to be, kid at heart, whatever. I'm 45. I'm gonna rave till I can't get out of bed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like,
Right.
because it just, I don't know, man. I find my spirit. I find the spirit on the dance floor. I feel God through the bass. I feel, like, and the person next to me, to my left and my right, like there's just, it's that energy that just flows through all of us. And like, whether we want to admit that it's there or not, it's there.
It's
And
there.
like,
And yeah.
and it
That's
allows me to really stay focused on the fact of why I'm there. I'm there for the music.
yeah. And
I'm there to be
that's
of
how it
service.
started. That's
Yeah,
that's how it started, man. I mean,
like there's nothing else to it, man. It shouldn't be. I mean, yeah, the drugs are fun to do there for sure. It's fun to
yeah, the
party and stuff,
drugs
and
are
little
definitely,
enhancement.
drugs are everywhere. Drugs are definitely everywhere.
Well, yeah, well,
I
that's the thing too. Is like rock, fucking rap, hip hop, whatever. Every
yeah,
scene has their scene of those things. It doesn't matter,
everything. Even the
whether it's
dancing
booze
scene.
and coke.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, it doesn't matter what it is. Every scene's got a substance or a few.
exactly. And I mean, for any kid that's listening to this, what kind of advice can you give anyone that's kind of struggling with their own substance abuse issues, dude? I mean, because as anyone that's going through that, they might not think they have a problem. I have a personal friend right now that's going through something very, very hard, and it's very difficult. He's getting help now, but it took him, I think it took him for him to get arrested and being
Yeah,
forced to
that's
take
me.
help. And for those kids out there that really haven't been arrested, that are still struggling, what kind of advice can you give them?
I mean, honestly, man, the first thing is that like acceptance is the answer to everything. You need to accept the fact that you are where you are and not sugarcoat it. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
and the other really vastly important thing is that you can't do it on your own. Like this is a we disease, bro. Like we need to help each other. It's just like life. I akin it to like the way we walk through the world. Like I can't do everything on my own. I can't get everywhere I need to go on my own. I'm gonna need to ask for help at some point. And like the hardest thing I ever did was setting down my pride in the fact that I can't handle my own life because of the situation that I have placed myself in. And
Mm,
like one of the most important things is ownership of my life. Like meaning like nobody made me do shit. Yeah, maybe I'm an addict now and I have addictive personality or tendencies or whatever the fuck. I maybe inherited alcoholism, because I don't know where it comes from.
yeah.
Like my dad's a psychotic drug addict and alcoholic before he got sober. My mom's had some serious substance problems in the past, but she didn't have to go through. She just quit one day. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And like, but then I got a brother and sister. I got a brother who's never even done any drugs ever. He's had like three
Right.
drinks of alcohol his whole life. And
Yeah.
so it's like, I can't sit here and say it's genetic or anything like that. But like the most important thing is the ownership of like my decisions led me to where I'm at today. So now I need to make another decision to ask for help and help myself. And like, whatever that's, wherever you find that, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, a therapist, whatever, the first thing you have to do is be willing to admit that you have a problem. And like, that takes some serious, that's a hard pill to swallow, man, especially when
Yeah.
you're young. It's like, I have some friends that got sober when they're 17.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
one of my closest
That's tough.
friends, he's like my nephew, basically. He's um is this buddy of mine, Nick, and he got sober when he was 17, man. He's 10 years sober now, and
That's dope. Okay.
and and like he'll tell you, he's like, the only way I ended up getting sober, man, was when I came to terms with the fact that everything I did led me to exactly where I was in that moment, and that nobody has the power to make me do anything. Nobody has control over my decisions. Nobody has control over how much or what I do or when I do it. Ultimately, I'm the one that makes those decisions. I'm the one that destroys my life. And so the first thing you have to do if you want to make a change is admit your powerlessness and admit that you put yourself where you're at. The second thing you have to do, man, is you have to be willing to ask for help in whatever capacity that is. Because if you're an actual addict or alcoholic, you don't have the power. You know, I mean, not to get too programming, but the book I tend to read all the time, it
Good
tells
point.
me that lack of power
Yeah.
is my dilemma. Okay.
Wow.
That is my problem. I
Yeah.
am convinced that I have this power to manage and control my life. But in actuality, I have zero power. And the only way I can win, and it's such a paradox, the only
Wow.
way I can win is to surrender. That seems counterintuitive, right?
It
Like it
does
seems
seem
like,
counterintuitive,
but
but
the
it's so
only way I can
profound.
win
That's
is
so
to,
true.
the
Wow.
only way I can win is to surrender to the fact that I am where I am and I need help. And the
Yeah.
only way to get help is to ask for it, man. Because like I don't know about you, but I've tried. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna stop using heroin because heroin's my problem, but meth's not my problem. So I'll use meth for a while, and that'll help me get off the heroin, and then I'll use weed to quit the meth, and then ultimately I just do this loop, and I just continue this loop that just never works out, and I'm always miserable, always chasing the feeling that I'm looking for that I'll never find. And that's the thing too, is if you're young and you
Yeah.
can grasp the idea that that feeling you got that plugged you into that addiction to begin with, you're
Yeah.
never going to find it again. I'll say that again. You will never find it again. It is
Wow.
going to be a chase that you're going to chase forever with no goal in sight because you will never find that feeling again. And that's what people chase. That's what I chased. I
Yeah.
chased that first nod. I chased that first line of meth that I did where it made me feel like a fucking superhero.
Yeah.
Um, you know, my whole life. And
You're
I
chasing
never
it.
got there again. You know what I mean? And it's just like
Wow.
so like I think the most important thing that people would need to hear is that you have to concede to yourself first that you have a problem.
Yeah.
In order to survive and win, you got to surrender to that. And then you got to set that big old boulder of pride and ego that you're carrying around down on the ground and reach your hand out and ask for help.
Yeah.
Because like we can't do this shit on our alone. It's just like life, man. We cannot live life alone.
Yeah. It's
We
true.
cannot. We can, but it's a pretty miserable existence
It'll be
unless you're a
yeah,
certain
it'll be
type of
horrible.
person.
Yeah.
And like, and it's the same with like helping, like that aspect of needing help. You just can't do it on your own, man. And
Yeah.
so like, um, whatever that looks like to that person, you just got to be willing to ask for help, dude. Like that was my problem. Is like I was just never willing. I had convinced myself that I had it under control. I'm like, well, look, I have a job and I have a place to live and I
Right.
and I got a truck and I got all these tools and all this stuff.
Which is
But
what a lot of people do, right? A lot of people convince themselves they don't have a problem. I can, I have a job, I have a car. That I've heard that so many times from friends of mine that had problems in the past.
The truth of the matter is
Yeah.
like today, I have the least I've ever had in the physical realm. I
Yeah.
mean, I do pretty good at my job and stuff like that. But as far as like the physical realm, all this stuff, I
Yeah.
have the least I've ever had, and I am the most happy I've ever been. And like, and that's directly a result of doing this work I've done to try and help keep myself sober, and like, and all the people that I have surrounded myself with, and like all the people that I work on helping on a daily basis. I mean, like, dude, it's such a blessing today, man. Like, even if I'm in my head and I'm feeling like shit, which happens sometimes, it's human nature.
Yeah.
It's like, I my phone rings so much. Like, I literally had to send out a couple of group texts to people that I work with in sobriety, and then like some other cats, just to be like, "Yo, I'm probably gonna be busy between 6 and 7:30, and I'm doing this Zoom call on my phone, so please don't call me." You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Because my phone just rings. But like when my phone rings today, I'm like, "Yes, all right. What am I gonna hear right now when I pick up the phone? How am I gonna help this person?" I'm like,
That's
that's my
dope.
first thought today.
That's dope.
Which is like, you can thank Mr. Ochoa for that one, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Shout
that,
out to Mr. Ochoa. Much
yeah,
love.
dude, that fool taught me how to love myself, which
That's
in
awesome.
turn taught me how to love other people, which in turn has made me have the ability to be of service and help other people,
Yeah.
because like I was such a selfish and self-centered asshole for
Yeah.
so long,
Yeah.
and like today my life is based on service. And I wouldn't want it any other way, man. And
That's
it's
dope.
like it's afforded me this opportunity to like go and do things that I never thought possible, and like to be at these parties and be like chilling with my lifelong homies and
Yeah.
not have this monkey on my back to
Right.
where I'm like I could go and do whatever I want. I mean, my life when I was right before I got sober, bro, I couldn't go more than like 30 miles away from my house unless
Yeah.
I had a big old clavo. You know what I mean? Because I
Right.
was like,
Right.
because I'm like, man, what if I run out? What am I
Right.
gonna do? Within 4 or 5 hours of running out, I'm gonna be sick, And
Right.
so it was like my life was so small in this little tiny box. You know
Right.
what I mean? And like, so if someone out there is feeling that way, I get it. If you want to get out of that box, the only person that can let you out is you.
Yeah.
That's the truth, man. The first steps you take are only done by you.
Yeah.
Where you take those steps is up to you. But ultimately, if you reach your hand out and ask someone, "Hey, I can't do it on my own. I need help," and you just follow that person's path, your life could get real beautiful. And like, the hardest thing for us as humans, I think, is setting down our pride and our ego, in that like we know what to do for ourselves and we
It's
have
true.
control,
It's
like,
true.
because that was my hardest thing, man. It's like, I got this shit, bro.
Yeah.
What are you talking about that I can't help myself?
Yeah.
I got this. But then in trying to run the show myself in early sobriety, truth be told, I found myself in a place where I had never been in a darker place in my whole life, bro. When I was like about 18 months sober, closer
Wow.
to killing myself than I had ever been loaded at 18
Holy
months sober,
shit.
because I could not grasp the fact of why I'm doing all this stuff that I think I need to do to help stay sober. I think I'm helping people. I'm going to all these meetings and doing this and doing that.
Right.
But like, I have no spirit in my life. And so every day I would just get sicker and feel worse about myself.
Wow.
But my ego's so big, I can't let you know that.
Yeah.
I can't, like, you're asking me, how's it going, bro? And I'm at and oh, life's great. I'm killing it. Everything's awesome. All
Right.
smiles. And then I go
Right.
home and I'm like, God, I just want to fucking die.
Yeah.
And like, and it wasn't until a few words were said to me, um, it shifted this whole direction of my life. It was just this like, dude, you can't do this on your own, and you need the spirit and you need people. And like, um, if the word God or spirit or some shit weirds people out, I get that, because it did
Yeah.
for me for a long time. And
Right.
but the universe has put me in such a place that like I can't do this shit without that in my life, and I can't do this shit without people like you, people like Pat, people like James.
Yeah.
People like Luke Kush, people like my girl that like, are in my corner and know me well enough to know when I'm full of shit.
Yeah.
You need like some of the most profound words ever said to me, dude, were that you need to have people in your life that care more about you than how you feel. And like,
Woo!
like
Wow. Who
you
said
know,
that to
like
you?
who do you think said that shit to me, bro? Mr. Pat Ochoa.
Pat
You know,
Ochoa.
like,
Oh, that is
like,
heavy. And
and like,
that is one of the most
hit
powerful
me,
statements I've heard in all
bro, it
month.
hit me right in the gut. I was like, damn, son, like, I,
Damn.
I got all these yes men around me. You know what
Right.
I mean? And
Yeah,
like,
no shit. Right.
screw the yes man, bro. I need someone who's like, hell no. What are you tripping? You know what I mean? Like someone that knows me well enough to call me on my bullshit.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important things too. If you're trying to change your life and you're struggling, you got to surround yourself with people who are willing to say the uncomfortable shit. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Willing who, like I said, care more about you than how you feel, man. Because like that
Wow.
will change the game, bro. That was the game changer for me. Now every person in my life that I have that I mess with on a regular basis cares more about me than how I feel. And like I'm so damn grateful for that. I'm so grateful to have people in my life that are willing to say the stuff that I definitely don't want to hear, but I need to hear,
Dude, I love
and
that,
like,
bro. I love that, dude. I think that's the
yeah,
perfect spot to where to end this podcast.
hell yeah, man.
Bro, before we end it, dude, I want to know, for anyone listening, man, anyone that that needs help, that's at EDC, wants some of that support network, where can they reach out to you? Where any social media sites, numbers that people
Oh
can
yeah.
reach out to you?
I mean, so Consciousness Group has a Instagram page, and they have
Cool.
a Facebook page.
Go.
Um, and it's Insomniacs Consciousness Group. On Instagram, it's Insomniac CG, I believe. And also my Instagram is Wook Whisperer, WOOK Whisperer. Um, Anybody, if you send me a message on Instagram, if you want to reach out, you need help, you need to get connected to people that you want to get help from, I'm there, man. And like if you want to find us and find me, come to the Carnival Square at EDC in the middle. Inside there is where the tent's set up every year. And you can't miss us. Big sign, Consciousness Group. Come find us, dude. It's nothing but love. Everybody there just wants to love you, until you can love yourself and then keep loving you, and so like so yeah, man,
That's
what
awesome, brother.
on Instagram, bro. And dude, I love you so much. Thank you so much for having me on here, brother.
Bro, dude, I got nothing but love and so much respect for you, brother. I mean, one thing that I just want to end it with is, every time I see you, you have this energy. You're always happy. You're always smiling. You have this spirit that you just lift others. Anytime people surround you, you have this ability just to lift others. You have this spirit. Maybe it's the Pat Ochoa spirit that's around you. And see, I'm actually getting kind of misty-eyed here, but
Me too,
it's just, dude, you're a fucking inspiration, man. You've been sober 9 fucking years. You're an inspiration to so many fucking kids out there. You're an inspiration to myself and to so many others. And I got nothing but love and so much respect for you, brother. And I can't wait to fucking see you EDC so I can fucking hug you, bro.
That's all right, bro. I love you so much, bro. Thank you again. God bless.
Love you,
Send my
brother.
love to your lady, and I can't wait to see you too, homie.
I will.
Thanks
I mean,
again.
she's gonna ask me. Look, I'm already teary-eyed right now, man. She's gonna, but
That's right,
love you,
brother.
brother, and
I
I'll
love you
see you
too.
in freaking May, brother.
Hell yeah, man. All right, dude.
All right,
Peace out,
brother.
bro.
Peace, brother. Shout out, brother.
Bye.
Later.